had 500 chairs. Every chair was taken, and there were probably another 200 to 300 people in the back and out in the lobby. So there were maybe 700 people at the event.
Aging ain't for sissies.
Aging ain't for sissies.
She turned 100 this past June 27th, and she told my son, Ron, that she was going to stick around for her 100th birthday, but she'd be out of here by fall. And she absolutely did exactly what she said.
I heard about Grace through Grace Lee's movie, the Grace Lee Project.
Every one of us who lives in this campus society has been...
One of my college history professors had casually mentioned that I shared a name with a socialist philosopher and writer. When I saw a flyer that Grace Lee Boggs was coming to campus, I tracked her down at a gathering of students, and when it was over, introduced myself and asked if I could interview her for a film I was making about Asian American women named Grace Lee.
I worked closely with Grace almost on a daily basis for about 30 years.
You know, she's a family member. She's been, you know, part of our family and us part of her life and Jimmy's life for, you know, 2/3 of my life. So that's a long time. Yeah.
Within the last 5 years that I've met her, I just found her to be a kindred spirit.
I learned many things from her, from how to be a better writer and speaker, how to be a better organizer, how to think about the world more broadly, how to drink a martini, how to make one.
What the next American Revolution is going to be like.
Grace, of course, studied both Marxism, Mao in China. She studied every form of revolution in the Caribbean countries. So she knew about the violent overthrow, which would be considered a revolution.
She does not think that the concept of revolution in the popular sense is accurate.
A revolution is to advance their humanity and to advance the humanity of the human race. They need to know that a revolution is to create solutions and not to get angry at the people. They need to know that a revolution is not just protest, it's not just anger, it's not just a search for power. It's a search for real problems of how to be a human being.
With the same fervor and the same discipline that people go out and fight wars and shoot and kill and maim, they would go into communities or into countries and to wage love, as Charity Hicks said.
Well, I see her as a revolutionary in the sense that she stirred the pot. She makes you think. She don't go for the status quo, and she stands up for the underdog, and then she make everybody else in the community stand up for what's right.
She wanted to leave a legacy that spoke to the community. And there were 2 organizations that were created.
The Boggs Center on the second floor didn't happen until 1995. So before that time, Jimmy and Grace's home served as a political center for activity. And their home was always the first floor, and somebody else lived upstairs. But after Jimmy's death, we purchased the home as a nonprofit community center.
And what we wanted to do was to really have young people, middle-aged people, it was thought to be intergenerational, to come together and be a think tank to come up with solutions for the problems.
Grace and Jim were very clear that the purpose of education is to enable us to make the decisions about our lives and about our future that will lead us to a more just, a more loving, a more productive country. What's different about the Boggs School is it's rooted in place-based education,
where the students are encouraged to be both critical thinkers and solutionaries.
So they teach them to be solutions to the problems that's in our community.
As Grace Lee Boggs, we are the solutionaries we have been waiting for.
It's not about controlling children or giving them schooling. It's about creating a whole new relationship between the building where the children are and the community to create real education.
So, for instance, at the Boggs School, not only are they learning how to read and write and arithmetic and all that, but they're also discussing social policy issues like the water shutoffs and why that is not a humane way to treat another human being. Those two organizations, in Grace and Jimmy's trust that it's being created, will address and support and nurture the work of both the school and the community Boggs Center.
Grace woke up talking. She would wake up in the morning with a question. Didn't matter who you were, where you came from, or what you were doing, or how wide awake you were, because she had questions to start conversation.
When the water shutoffs started occurring in our city, she says, we've got to do something about this. What are you going to do? And, you know, I'm like, well, Grace, we can organize around it. But one of the things it did is it made me get into motion.
And Grace would always say, we haven't thought about this enough. It was that kind of love for ideas and love for the belief that in conversation and reflection, people really, really grow.
Grace lived so long because God wasn't ready for the conversation yet. That's true in a certain sense. I mean, I can see that.
Talk is cheap. I find it very, very difficult to take. I want to tell you honestly, their talk was not cheap.
Grace could be tough on people. She believed in conflict. She believed in creating tension as a way to create progress. If she didn't agree with you, she didn't pretend to agree. And if she thought you were wrong, she told you so.
She made me feel uncomfortable. And I think it's probably a negative male characteristic that I didn't cry. I probably should have cried. But in many ways, I would argue back with her. But I know that, and it was the same feeling. It was the same feeling that when Grace thought she was right, she was right.
When people died, Grace would want to write something about where she disagreed with them. And I would say to Grace, Grace, they just died. You know, you're supposed to say nice things. And she said, no, you're supposed to say what you thought about where they stood. So that was a disagreement. We would fight over that like mad.
But I think what Grace always wanted, and fundamentally, she could go just bananas about something, and then the next minute, she's on with something else and asking that same person, now, what do you think we need to do?
Oh, my relations.
Thank you, Grace, for teaching us, for teaching all of us what it means to be Asian American in Detroit, in this world.
And one of the most incredible things that I've ever seen from any human being was Grace's ability to bring all of the races together. When you would go to the Boggs Center, you'd see every nationality there, but people who were all standing up for what was right, because it affects all of us.
I think Grace was really a breath of fresh air as a radical Asian American, as opposed to a liberal Asian American. It wasn't about, like just voting in the right people. It was really about the change has to come from the grassroots and it has to be deeper than that.
She actually transcended race, because a lot of times people remind us that Grace was Asian, Grace was a woman. Grace was Grace, and Grace was a person who reminded us of what it is to be human, what our role is in this world, in this life.
I can't be a little Grace or Grace's daughter or anything like that, but I can take what I have learned from Grace and Jimmy and other people, my own family, my own mother and father, and try to be the best Alice that I can be.
From protest politics to actually rebuilding the alternative, creating the alternative instead of banging my head against the brick wall over and over and over again. So I feel like it saved me, you know, it saved me from killing myself over, you know, and getting depressed and giving up.
She taught a lot of people who they are. She did a good job of that. Truly an incredible human being. An incredible human being. Wow, never said that. But she was truly an incredible human being.